Hello, it is me, Nadia, and welcome to Free My Mojo podcast number 34. And today we are talking about honor all emotions as feedback. And this is a huge thing for me. As someone who studied communications and got a PhD in communications, one of the things that I was really fascinated by was the way that communicating made me feel, and that the way the inability to communicate made me feel. So I suppose I could in some way have been studying feelings, and I suppose that would have made it more of a study of psychology, but it was what to do about those feelings, or how to articulate feeling, or how to make people feel things through messages that really intrigued me and interested me. And what's been so fascinating about that study is to find out, of course, to study the brain and to study neuroscience, and then to study psychology, and then to study sociology, and to realize that there are so many layers upon layers upon layers of reasons why we feel the way we do about certain things. And then to study art and see that colors and sounds and music can also create feelings for us. So we are multisensory, and we're all neurologically diverse. And so one of the things that we're facing is the fact that we all feel differently about different things, because we all have unique chemistry and we all are unique. The other part about this is that we've all had unique childhoods, and we've all had different situations and different circumstances and different things that create different responses in us from anyone else. Here's what we know. We know that everything, smells, sights, words, language, we know that they mean different things, and they don't mean the same thing to everyone. For example, a gesture does not mean the same thing in every culture in the world. Things mean different things to different people for different reasons. For example, if you are in a relationship and somebody brings you home chocolates, you might say to yourself, wow, they love me so much they got me these chocolates. But you might also say, they brought me these chocolates because they want me to be fat. Or they bought me these chocolates and now they're sabotaging me because I'm trying to be on a diet, okay? So the act of bringing home chocolates is not universally something that means the same thing. Someone might go and buy you a dozen roses, and they might feel like, oh, look at these roses I got this person. And the person who gets the roses might feel like there's a basically slave trade that goes behind cut flowers and in the growing and in the circulating of flowers. And this isn't something that I want. I don't even like cut roses. So my point here is that every act and every reaction to every act is not the same thing. There are some people who do an incredible job, for example, of being emergency room nurses. They're fine with blood and gunshots and knife marks, and they're fine with drunk people or any other kind of person, and it doesn't faze them because they have a job to do and they're fine with it. And there are some of us who know that we're so sensitive we wouldn't even bother trying to train to be an emergency room nurse because we'd be useless. So knowing ourselves, knowing what our ability is, knowing what our response to certain things are, we have to understand something very important. A feeling, an emotion, is just feedback to us. It's just something that's telling us something, but it doesn't necessarily mean what we think it means. In other words, sometimes people get angry, and when they get angry, they think they're supposed to do something because they're angry. And honestly, I can say to you, I think if you're angry, the best thing to do is to not do anything. Because almost always when you do something when you're angry, it will be something you will regret. If a neighbor makes you angry and you go and you confront that neighbor, if somebody says something about you and you respond, if you get a mean email from someone and you send off an equally mean one, chances are when you're angry, you want to look at why you're angry and you want to say, yeah, I'm angry, but you don't necessarily want to jump into an action mode because of how you feel. There's so many examples of this. For example, when somebody falls in love, Sometimes people fall in love and they go and get the person's name tattooed on them. Well, 6 months later, they don't feel that way, and now they're stuck with a tattoo of somebody's name. I believe this is something that happened to Johnny Depp. So we want to understand that we're going to feel things, and feelings are a way of us knowing how we're doing. Feelings are a way of us experiencing the world, and it's a way of us interacting with the world. But it is not necessarily telling us what it is that we need to do next. A lot of us get in trouble because we are so emotional or unemotional. Some of us get in trouble because we're not showing enough feeling. Some of us get in trouble because we're showing too much feeling. So here's the key. Our key is self-mastery. In other words, I often say, be the sky, not the weather. If you are someone who can master his or her own ship, what the weather is like is not necessarily your concern, because you know that you can navigate that. And you know that you're smart enough not to go out in certain types of weather. So in the same way, we want to understand our feeling range. We want to understand what's to be expected. I recently saw a friend who had lost a very wonderful, loving person in her life that she did not expect to lose. And her sadness was something that I could feel. I could feel her pain. I could feel her sadness. And every now and then she would cry. And it felt to me like her grief was appropriate, because her grief was because of the depth of her love for that person. So sometimes being sad is exactly the right thing for that moment, for that experience. Do we want to be sad all the time? No. Sometimes we don't feel the way we want to feel, and we watch a movie so we can laugh, or we go to see a stand-up comedy so we can laugh. And sometimes that's what we need. Sometimes you get in your car and you play a song on purpose and you can cry because of that song. So just think of this. The way music happens is that the silence between the notes creates the music. And this is true for feeling. We want to allow there to be space between the feelings. We want to allow the feelings to come up. We want to observe the feelings. We can even name the feeling. I'm feeling, and you can call it a name. And you can just watch it come up. But you don't have to fix yourself. You don't have to constantly be fixing yourself. You don't have to use a mood-altering substance to change your mood. You can, but you need to let certain moods come up because they're really there to tell you something. They're really there to let you know something. If you come home from work on Friday and you're exhausted and you're drained and you're miserable, then you're learning something. If you come home from work and you're exhausted, but you're exhilarated because you felt like, yeah, I fought the good fight. This is important to me. I'm happy to be tired from this. Well, that's a completely different experience. Feelings exist to help us navigate our world. They exist to save our lives. Sometimes if we feel fear, it's to let us know that something is wrong. It's to let us know that we need to get out of a certain situation, or we need to not trust a certain person. But do yourself a favor and make friends with your feelings. Listen to your body. Your body may be telling you, I'm tired of this. Yeah, you should be tired of this. It's good to be tired of this. Maybe this shit has gone on too long and you need to cut it. You need to end it. You need to change it. This needs to be different than this. So if you can embrace your feelings, it's like being an artist who paints with all the colors, all the possible colors, and who knows that if they blend a certain yellow with a certain blue, they get the certain green that they want. You too can be that master. You too can use your feelings in your life in a way that is useful and productive to you. There was a time recently where I felt really sick and I thought, did I eat something? What is going on with me? Why do I feel like this? And what I realized was I was feeling anxious, and I am not generally an anxious person, but I felt awful, and it almost felt like I was sick. And when I said to myself, you're overcommitted, you're overwhelmed, and now you're anxious, this is what anxiety feels like. And once I knew that, I was able to cancel some things, change some things, do some things differently. Sometimes when I find myself angry, I say to myself, why does that anger me? Why does that person have the ability to say something to me and anger me? And I can acknowledge that there's something unresolved about that. So what we want to do is we want to get clear. How do we want to feel? What is our intention for how we want to feel? And then on top of that, we have to embrace a very big thing, which is that we are human. And being human gives us our humanity. And our ability to feel is what makes humanity great. We don't want to numb ourselves. We don't want to dumb ourselves. We want to experience life, and we want to feel the breadth and depth of a feeling or an experience. But we want to get to where we have enough self-mastery to know, if I do that, I'm going to feel like that, and I don't want to feel like that anymore. And we want to get to where we feel something, we know we feel something, and we say to ourselves, that's enough. I'm going to pull myself out of this situation, or I'm going to put myself in another thing. One final word I want to say about this is, as a communications person, I want to encourage you to never, ever tell other people how they're feeling. It's really, really diminishing to tell someone, oh, you feel this, you feel that. You never know what someone feels. Even if you've had the exact same situation as another person, you had a miscarriage, they had a miscarriage. You had a car accident, they had a car accident. No matter what it is, you can say, oh yeah, something like that happened to me. But never ever speak to another person's feelings, because we never know what someone else is feeling. And for example, you may see someone acting a certain way and think, oh, I feel like they're blah, blah, blah. Well, the truth of the matter is you can invent what you think their behavior means, but frequently we don't know. So one of the best things we can do when it comes to feeling is to check in with ourselves and say, how am I feeling? One of my favorite exercises for people I work with in coaching is to say, every hour for the next 24 hours that you're awake, I want you to ask yourself, what am I feeling? And check in with yourself and note what you're feeling. And over a week, you can see, every time I come into this building, I feel like this. Every time I eat that food, I feel like that. And when you have that level of self-awareness, your life will change radically, because you're going to be the one making decisions, anticipating and knowing that this will make you feel better or this will make you feel worse. And that is the point of self-mastery. So thank you so much for joining me today. By allowing all feelings to come, we will start to see the world more vibrantly. We will start to have deeper experiences. We will start to know ourselves and know the world in a beautiful way. And I wish that for you. And thank you so much for joining me. And I would like to express that I feel deep gratitude for you as a listener. Thank you so much.